Okay, what am I doing today? What am I doing? Or did I not do that yesterday? I don't think so. Or did I? Wait. No. We're just going to remove this so that they can track guards that are inside. Now I can see why I've done it this way, because how do you path to something that's inside? Which generally means it's in an inaccessible location. That's going to cause some issues when attempting to path to it. That's why we don't do that. I see. You would actually, if the guard is inside, you would want to path to the building that they are inside of. Oh, jeez. You pass to the building that they're inside of, and when you reach it, that's when you would switch, which I think would happen automatically just based on how everything's set up right now anyway. Okay, so if I remove this, then they can add guards that are inside to the nearest guard tracker. And then if I go to what if they're pathing to a guard that then goes inside before they reach them? Then we need to switch. Interesting. Okay. This is like a billion of these, so I have to change this in multiple locations. Easiest thing to do is search for nearest guard in this case, I think. Well, search for this line, actually. Where's the first one? This one. And it's got to be like if nearest guard dot inside equals true, else target equals nearest guard dot target. We can guarantee if they're inside, they'll be targeting the thing they're inside of. That's just how it works. And then we move this one inside here. Seems good. And then just go replace. Just gonna go through. I could just do a find and replace, I think, but I'm just gonna go through them. That's it. Okay, and then inside of the inside of the state itself. We've got some stuff here that is like, if they're fleeing to a guard and then they only flee to guards if they're being attacked directly, else they run away from danger. If they're fleeing to a guard and then they're no longer being attacked directly, they'll switch to a waypoint. Or if the guard no longer exists. That doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work. Does it not? I don't think it ever gets cleared. Right? Nearby guards, current guard. Talking about nearest guard. Gift is not guard. Yeah, it doesn't get cleared like it used to. So that doesn't actually work. It would need to be more like if the nearest guard dies or is held by the player. Wait, don't we already have that? That's what this is. If instance exists nearest guard. Oh, I just didn't update my notes. Comments. If the guard is on fire or held by the player or dead. This is universal. Target does not equal waypoint. This is redundant. Is there something to switch back to a guard? Update target. Yes. But you would need to put those same checks in there, maybe? Oh, it's a pain in the ass now that this tracker doesn't just get cleared. Interesting. You could probably do it by putting an else on this that clears this, right? No. Only if it's already, it's an else if. Else if nearest shaman.id equals current shaman.id. Nearest shaman equals no one. I believe that works. Current shaman. Does allow me to remove some checks later on that we've been using as well. But it's like in those cases we've been okay. We've had a way of determining whether or not they should perform their action regardless of whether the nearest whatever tracker is accurate or not. We've had like a fallback. We don't have that in the case of the guards and the shaman. I think it's why we've had some weird behavior with the humans didn't used to like follow the shaman around when they have no mana, because they wouldn't class them as like being available because they can't do any healing when they don't have any mana. But now I think they would just follow them around. Whereas I think this allows us to avoid that problem. Because it's like we're performing the scan to find the nearest shaman, right? And then we find the nearest shaman, and then we start the scan again from the top, scan through all the shamans to see if the nearest shaman changes. But also at the same time, we check with each shaman that we check. We do all this, and then so it's like this tells us if they're available. Else, so if they're not available, well, if they're on the nearest shaman tracker, but they're no longer available, we know we need to remove them from that tracker. And then the tracker will either be cleared, or it will still be cleared. It will be cleared, and then it may or may not be set to the new nearest available shaman later anyway. So this is a really nice way of building this into our existing system here. I think it works. Oh, the possibility of overriding. No, but it's only if it's a match. It can't override, right? Hey, Michael, welcome back. How's it going? It can't override because it has to be a match. So I think this is good. So if I just run through that in my head, so we scan through all the shaman, we find the nearest available shaman, and then we scan through all the shaman again. Let's say the old nearest available shaman is no longer available, but before we get to that shaman, we scan a different shaman who is available, right? He would get added to the nearest shaman temporary tracker. Then we would hit the old nearest shaman and be like, oh, this guy's no longer available. We need to clear the nearest shaman tracker. He gets removed from that. Then we finish the scan, and then we transfer the new nearest available shaman from the temporary variable to the nearest shaman variable. It works perfectly. It clears unavailable shaman off of the tracker, and it adds available shaman to the tracker. And we can use the same method for everything, and that also allows us to perform less checks elsewhere, because essentially they've just been getting stuck on the trackers, and then we've had to do additional checks. But there, like I said, there's a few cases where there's nothing that we can check. There is no additional thing that we can check. you know, in the case of injured humans, that we have a list that contains injured humans. Even if an injured human who is, even if a human who is no longer injured is still stuck on the injured humans tracker, we had a method of saying, like, is the injured humans list empty? Well, then don't bother doing this, because there are no injured humans, even if there's one still on the tracker. They're just never getting cleared off the tracker. But then certain things like the shaman and the guards, we don't have anything like that we can rely on. So actually it makes a hell of a lot more sense to update this system so that it actually works instead of putting some weird band-aid on it. So and it's a really nice fix because it's only one additional check that we have to do. So it's pretty efficient. It's probably more efficient than checking the list, or it's especially more efficient than doing a range check as well, which is one of our other methods. So I can do this to everything, I believe. Nearest predator. Well, it's like, if this stuff is not true, then it's the same. It's kind of the same as how I remove them from the nearby predators list, which is a thing that formulates a list of like all of the ones that are nearby. Hence the name. You son of a bitch. I'm in. Alright, so current pred nearest predator. Yeah. Yeah. The hell am I looking at? Oh, yeah. Okay. Current hunter, nearby hunters, nearest hunter party. Yeah, we can do that here as well. Current hunter equals nearest hunter party. Nearest hunter party equals no one. Gods. Don't know why I'm doing them in the other way around this time. There's probably a reason. So current guard, else if current guard, nearest guard, did this one for the shaman. Injured humans. Injured humans. Same thing applies. Currently, well, okay, I think we're okay in this case because if an injured human is inside and then a shaman shows up, they'll actually come outside. I don't think we need to worry about getting the shaman to like go and seek out injured humans that are inside, because they'll just come outside anyway. This one would be more complicated. Well, it's exactly the same, but there's a risk. There's a risk. I don't think it would ever happen, but it could potentially happen, and I don't like that. That the shaman could potentially start healing tents, which is just weird. It's fine when people are like running away and they're trying to run to a guard, and the guard is inside of a tent. We make them run to the tent for assistance, and then the guard will emerge. The weird thing is they'll still continue running to the tent, even once the... I feel like I should do something where when the guard leaves the tent, they switch targets to the guard, so they actually run to the guard, as opposed to the tent. I think I should do that. But with the... But that's because that's because, function intent returns Boolean. I don't know what you're talking about. Just purely because of how the shaman work. They'll just heal whatever they're targeting. Is intent. The way that I do it, I just have an inside flag that is true or false, basically. What would probably happen is I'd have to build that target switch in, right? The shaman would... well, you could just build something in that doesn't allow them to heal unless they're targeting a human. That's the failsafe. Right. That's all I'm saying. The way that it's set up right now, it's an easy change, but the way it's set up right now, they would like run to the tent. The injured human would leave the tent once the shaman gets in range. And then we'd have to have something that causes the shaman to switch targets to the human at that point. But... wait, how would you do that? Oh, no, they're still targeting the human. It's just... Wait, are they? No. No, they're not. They're targeting the target of the human. Yeah, so they would run to the tent, the human would leave. We'd need something to switch targets, but that's a little bit more difficult, because how do we know who we're supposed to switch targets to at that point? It's the same problem with the guards, really. You have them like running to this guard that's inside of a tent, and when the thing that they're running from gets close enough, the guard is going to react to it and leave the tent and go outside to attack it. And if we want them to then... We want the fleeing individual to then switch targets to the guard, how do we do that? We can't like reverse that and get back from there to the guard. All we did was make them target the target of the guard, because they were inside of a tent, which means they would have been targeting the tent. Presumably they have something in there that will always switch targets to the nearest guard. That changes. So you could just... Well, we still don't know. Now, that's the weird thing. We don't know when the guard leaves the tent. We just don't know that. That's very strange. So currently the simplest implementation without doing a bunch of extra work, which I'd have to figure out how we'd even do it, is just to have them path to the tent that the guard was in. That's it. That's all we can really do. We'd need an extra variable, like a memory, that stores the guard, right? Like a guard variable. And then if they are fleeing to a guard that's inside, they target the thing that they are inside of, but then they store that specific guard in their like guard memory. And then we can perform a check on it to see when it's outside. Although it's not very clean because we're like constantly checking. You could do it the other way around, where whenever a guard leaves a tent, it checks to see if any other human has it on its guard memory, in its guard memory, and then perform like makes. That seems quite messy. It probably wouldn't be an issue, but what if like the situation had changed such that there's additional checks you've got to make sure that you don't do that if that human has now died or something. It's like, it's all very, very messy. I think the simplest method is we just have them run to the tent that the guard was in, right? Well, at least they can still run to guards that are inside for assistance, and that's the main thing, even if it's not like perfect, you know. No, everybody just has a single target. They can only ever target one thing at once. What is this? Injured humans, so else if current injured human equals lowest health human equals no one. I really am glad to get these trackers so that they like clear stuff off of them again when it shouldn't be there. That's pretty huge. Whoops. Current prey, nearest prey, nearest prey. Current log, nearest log, nearest log. Current mushroom. Nearest mushroom. Nearest mushroom. Current bush. Nearest bush. Nearest bush. Current water. Nearest stream. Oh boy, the naming is not very consistent there. Fountain. 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 Well, I suppose we would still need to do that. Wait a minute, there is no satisfaction. This one's a bit different. I think we base it off of the instance exists check, and we just do else. So if it doesn't exist... Wait, no, we can't just do else. It needs to be else. Else if nearest stream dot object index equals object fountain nearest stream equals no one. Nearest active drum. Else if current drum equals nearest active drum. Nearest active drum equals no one. Is that it? Okay, we made it. That's the humans done, but I still have to apply the same sort of treatment to the animals. But they're less complicated generally. Some of them still have quite a few trackers, but it's not as bad as the humans. Nearest threat. Current human equals nearest threat. Nearest threat equals no one. Current, don't need to worry about that. Human check, predator check, current predator. Current predator equals nearest threat. Nearest threat equals no one. Oh, this is great. It's going to be interesting when coding is essentially just like talking to an AI about what you want and it just writes the code for you. What is this one? We have a second one specifically for what? What is this? Oh, it's the list, my bad. And then bears. Holy moly. Current bear equals nearest threat equals no one. That one's just a list. nearest prey. Current prey equals nearest prey. Nearest prey equals no one. And current bush equals nearest bush. Nearest bush equals no one. Tents. Current tent equals... Oh no, I think the desk is a bit low down. Hurting my shoulder. Current tent equals nearest tent. Nearest tent equals no one. That's it. Okay, fox. Step. Nearest threat. Current fox equals nearest threat. Nearest threat equals no one. Nearest prey. Current prey equals nearest prey. Nearest prey equals no one. That's it. Wolves. Nearest threat. Current human. Equals nearest threat. Nearest threat equals no one. That's the list. Current pred equals nearest threat. Nearest threat equals no one. Nearest prey. Current prey equals nearest prey. Nearest prey equals no one. Tents. Current tent equals nearest tent. Nearest tent equals no one. That's it. Deer. Nearest threat. Current human equals nearest threat. Nearest threat equals no one. Current pred equals nearest threat. Nearest threat equals no. What the fuck? What happened there? Try again. Wait. Oh god. Current pred equals nearest threat equals no one. Nearby potential mates. Nearest buck. Why does this look different? It looks different. I'm freaking out because it looks different. Well, I suppose it still goes there. Current deer equals nearest lacking buck. Nearest lacking buck equals no one. Current deer equals nearest buck equals no one. Prey. Prey list. They don't have a prey tracker, nearest prey tracker, they just have a list of nearby prey. That's it. And just the rabbits left to do. Oh boy. Okay, nearest threat. Current human equals nearest threat. Nearest threat equals no one. Current predator. Oh, it's actually written out in full in this one. Equals nearest threat equals no one. Nearby prey. That's it. That is it. Okay, everything is up to date. That's great. So there's some stuff that I can strip out, I believe now, and then we can get back to what we were actually doing. Now we can finally play the game. Kenny, drink your elixir of the mongoose. Okay, I believe we still need the range check on the stuff that needs a range check, to put it simply. Like, let's see. There's no range check on nearest threat. There's no range check on nearest prey. Right? Correct. But some of the other ones, like, excuse me, like injured humans and nearest shaman. Wait, we didn't have anything on nearest shaman. That was the whole. I think it's just injured humans. Is that right? Let me just check nearest hunter party. I don't think there's any range check on it. No. That's built in elsewhere. I'm pretty sure it's just the injured humans one. We no longer need to check if the injured humans list is empty or not empty, because there simply won't be a human on the nearest injured human tracker if there are no injured humans now, because it gets cleared off. So that means we can go into state conditions, state heal, and remove this DS list not empty global heal, and we can go to the state itself, state heal, and we have, if that list does become empty, return to idle, but that would now become if if not instance exists nearest injured, what is it called? Injured human? I thought that was what it was called. That's not what it's called. What is it called? What? Nearest. Nearest. No. It's called lowest. It's called like lowest health human or something. Health. Lowest. Is it what? Lowest health human. Lowest health human. It's not based on how near they are. It's based on who has the lowest health. Simply, if there is no lowest health human, then there's nobody to heal, so you can stop healing, which is exactly the same as checking that list, but it's now become unnecessary to check the list. In fact, I think it might be completely unnecessary to even have that list in the first place now, so we can probably just strip that out of the game. Which is nice, because then we don't have to keep updating that list. Which is an optimization, technically. A small one, but an optimization nonetheless. And then interrupts, bleed interrupt. I know it's doesn't make sense. The name of the script doesn't make sense. Healing. So we can just remove this DS list not empty heal from here as well. It's just if instance exists lowest health human, then we know somebody needs healing. If that instance doesn't exist, nobody needs healing. Simple as that now. And why are we doing this mana check last? We're like going through all of this stuff and it's like, oh, didn't have any mana anyway. That's definitely not efficient, is it? First thing we'll check is if you're a shaman. Next thing we'll check is if you've got the mana to actually heal. Then we'll check if the lowest health human exists, and then we'll check if they're actually in range. Okay, so I think that's good, and then, yeah, I'm pretty sure we can just strip that list out completely, which is pretty easy to do. I believe it's just in the end step here somewhere, global heal. We just have this thing that adds you and removes you. Adds you to and removes you from that list based on whether you're at full health or not. We just don't need to do that anymore, which is awesome. And if let's just do a global search for, Jesus Christ, okay, that shows up in quite a lot of places. That's not what I was hoping for. What is, oh, good job I did, yeah. What is this? This is if they're asleep, if the shaman will wake up to heal people, but whilst they're asleep, they're not running the state condition script as usual, so they have to have like an additional check to see if somebody needs healing. But we're not going to be doing it based on that list. It's simply going to be a case of you're asleep, you have the mana, and instance exists lowest health human. Like that. What is this one? Oh, fuck, right, okay. We're gonna put the list back. Let's put the list back. It's true that we don't need to check on the list when deciding whether we should be healing or not, that sort of thing. But by having the list, we can disable the lowest health human tracker whenever it's empty. And that way we're not unnecessarily scanning through all of the humans constantly trying to figure out which one has the lowest health when none of them are actually injured. So the list still serves a purpose. And keeping that list up to date is definitely way more efficient than constantly running those checks. So it is an optimization to have the list, after all. I just forgot because I don't know how my own game works. So anything in end step, that's good. What is this one? That's that one. We want that. That's good. This is all good. Saving and loading the game. Saving and loading. We just remove them from that list when we load the game, because I don't know, the list probably gets destroyed and recreated, and then they just add themselves back to it in the usual way if they're injured. Right. Portal, if you go to the next level, that list gets cleared. Why? Why would it go? Why would going to the next level need to clear the global heal list? Well, you raise a good point. Death, harvested, stasis. We don't really want to be able to heal humans that are in stasis, which is like the holding state when they've entered the portal, but we're still waiting for everyone else to enter the portal before we do the level transition. You don't want to be able to... Technically, they're supposed to have like gone through the portal, right? They still exist there, but they're invisible. So we don't want to be able to heal people that are in stasis. Which is probably already built into this one, but they were still being added to the list and not removed from the list. So we won't add them to the list if they're in stasis, and we will remove them from the list if they're in stasis. Controller cleanup, that makes sense. Controller create, yeah, of course. So it's whatever at this stage. Like, I mean, they're going to get removed from that list when they enter the portal, when they enter stasis. So clearing the list, it doesn't really, it's already going to be cleared, basically. Everyone's going to be removed from it. We can just do that anyway, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, that's it. Okay, so that's all done. So now we can actually finally do whatever the hell I was trying to do in the first place, which is making them flee to the tent, making them flee to the construct which the guard is occupying if the guard is inside at the time of fleeing to them. And we've written the part which tells them to target the thing that the guard is inside of if the guard is inside at the time of attempting to flee to the guard. But we haven't finished updating the fleeing state itself. We've decided, because of the complexities, we're not going to switch targets to the guard when the guard leaves the thing that they are inside of. In which case, I think we might actually just be done. State flee. Free. State free. The free state. I'm a big fan of the free state. I enjoy being free. So what would happen? Basically, the same as usual. When they reach path position 1, so they reach the tent that the guard was in, then they just switch to, they just spawn a waypoint and, hey Fizzy Busy, how's it going? And they just kind of continue fleeing, but now they'll be fleeing to a waypoint versus fleeing to a guard. The only possibly slightly weird looking part of this would be that you'll see them fleeing to the tent, and then the guard will come out of the tent and like run past them, but they will keep going to the tent until they reach it, at which point they will then like change directions and go fleeing off away from the nearest predator, essentially. And now the old method of doing this actually is viable. I don't need to do all this crazy stuff anymore. Wait, or do I? Well, it helps it update instantly. Or what we could do is disable the... We could disable this guard tracker whilst nearest guard. We could disable this one whilst you're fleeing and enable one that scans all guards every step, so that we can have like instant updating nearest guard tracker whilst you're fleeing, in the same way that we like disable the regular nearest threat tracker and enable one that's much faster in the attacking and defending states, so that we can have like snappy, more responsive stuff in combat. And technically fleeing is a combat state, but I don't think it's as important as the attacking and defending stuff to do that. But we could do it that way. But based on the way things work now, there would, if we were to... I could remove all of these checks and just put a... well, there's a target switch. Right, there's a target switch if target does not equal nearest guard, then switch to the new nearest guard, right? So you'll always switch to the nearest guard. And then if the nearest guard... Oh, interesting. So if the nearest guard changes, that will just take care of that. It's basically if there is no guards, then we need you to switch to the regular fleeing where you like run away to a waypoint. Or we want you to do that if you're not being targeted directly, which is this top part here. So we have that, and then the second part of this is literally just instance does not exist nearest guard. Whoops. That's basically it. And then this target does not equal waypoint. That's basically universal. So we can actually like put this all in brackets and then put and then put this at the beginning. So the first thing we check is target does not equal waypoint, which is definitely more efficient than doing it after checking all this other stuff, isn't it? In fact, in this case, like, well, the first thing, we do need to check that nearest guard exists and target exists before we reference that. I'm not even checking that target exists in this case. Well, it's just a variable, I suppose. If it, I guess we don't need to worry about that. It would be more efficient if you were to do it this way, right? You check instance exists nearest guard, and then you check target does not equal nearest guard. And then you check, does nearest predator exist? Does nearest predator.target exist? Is nearest predator.target me? Then I'm going to switch targets to the new nearest guard. If I'm not already targeting waypoint, my waypoint specifically, and instance exists, nearest guard, nearest predator exists, nearest predator.target exists, and nearest predator.target is not me, or nearest guard does not exist. I can get rid of this bit. Then I'm going to switch target to spawn a waypoint, switch target to the waypoint, etc. And that works now because if we look at nearest guard, the nearest guard tracker, it will remove guards that are on fire or held by the player or dead or drowning or in stasis. Drowning, that's a good point. We don't want to, or do we? They might be inaccessible, that's the thing. I don't think we can heal drowning humans. I don't think we can have the shaman attempt to heal drowning humans because it's going to cause pathing issues. It's possible that they could be close enough to the coast that they can actually reach them with their heals, but if they're far enough out, it's going to be impossible for them to path to them. Didn't really think about that. So, drowning. Right, okay, so don't add them to the global heal list if they're drowning. Remove them from the global heal list if they're drowning. Okay. Okay, I think we did it. I don't know what we did, but I'm pretty sure we did something. Was that even on the list of stuff to do today, or did I just completely go off on a tangent? I think so. Oh, this was all back to track guards that are inside on the nearest guard tracker. But that turned out to have like a whole bunch of other consequences, which led me to basically fixing all of the trackers, which allowed me to update a bunch of other stuff. Okay. Cross that one off the list. The other stuff I've got here is mainly like balance changes, although there is, I mean, it's more, would you call this a quality of life thing? I don't know. We want to change how the worshippers work a little bit, because I discovered, I never really considered the fact that you can send a group of worshippers to unlock a shrine, and then you could pick one of them up and convert them into something else, like a carpenter or something, and they never actually, I don't think they ever actually get removed from that shrine, basically. So everyone else thinks that, everyone else is like still over there waiting for this worshipper who's now a carpenter and can't actually worship. So that's a thing. And then what we would want to do is, if you were to, I want to change what would happen if I fixed the initial problem, right, which is to like remove them from that shrine when you change their gift. What would happen is that worship group would be disbanded. So you'd say you have like two of the three worshippers are over at that shrine, and then they were waiting on this third guy and you changed their gift. We actually removed that one from the shrine. The group would be disbanded, and the two worshippers at the shrine would start heading back to camp. And if you had enough worshippers back at camp, they would actually form a new worship group, and 3 new worshippers would start heading out to this shrine. That's confusing behavior, if you ask me. What intuitively you would think that the 2 worshippers that were already there should just be waiting for a different third, like a replacement worshipper should come in and fill the spot of the one that was missing, rather than the group being completely disbanded and 3 new worshippers going. And it's always 3 new worshippers just because of the way that it always picks worshippers from the top of the list, and the ones like from the previous group get when it gets disbanded, get added back to the bottom of the list, right? And I was thinking about it yesterday, like, oh, couldn't you just add them back to the top of the list? And I guess so, but I think either I thought of a scenario in which that would still be problematic, or it's just the fact that, like, why don't we just do it properly? Why, instead of completely disbanding and reforming the group, why don't we just actually make it, like, add replacements to the group? It's a really interesting edge case. I mean, I never thought about the fact, I think I did it accidentally or something. I never thought about the fact that you could send your worshippers off to unlock a shrine and then change one of them into something else. And that fucks everything up completely. There's always like so many little edge cases that you just don't think of. Which is exactly why you can't design a game like this before you start making it. You have to basically design it on the fly whilst you're making it. If you really wanted to think of every eventuality, every possible scenario, and design for everything, take everything into consideration, and like fully design the thing out before you write a single line of code, it would take you like 5 years or something just to design the damn thing. And you probably still wouldn't think of 90% of it. You probably still wouldn't think of half of the edge cases because you don't really think of them until you actually encounter them. So it's one of those things, like, I think for like small scale games, sure, write out a full design document if you want before you even start. That's probably quite useful. But for games like this, that's just going to slow you down. I think you've just got to start and like figure it out as you go. Which is basically what I've done. Like, this whole game project has pretty much been improvised. I just make it up as I go along. Otherwise, I don't think I would ever get anything done. Okay, I like the idea of working on this now, though, because it will be a really nice change. So we can do the first, like, the basic fix first, which is just to make sure that we actually clear the worshippers if you reassign their gift when they've been assigned to unlock a shrine or something, which is basically going to be... We need to have a look in the controller object here, and no, actually it's a script now, I always forget. So script, game, drop, the drop script. This is all the stuff that we do when you drop a human, right? And if we go all the way down to the gift assignment code, this is probably one of the worst scripts in the entire game, just one of the worst pieces of code in the entire game. I mean, look at this, it's a nightmare. Oh boy, okay. It was written a long time ago. Maybe it could be refactored, and it probably could be refactored and made a lot better, a lot more efficient, a lot more readable, a lot more everything. But whether that's ever actually going to get done, I don't know. It's one of those things where it would take so much time, and it works, so I'm probably just not going to touch it. But yeah, basically all we do right now... Wait a minute, it's there. It's there. Well, what the fuck is going on then? Okay, this is... The plot thickens. This is a real mystery now. Because if I'm reassigning a worshipper, in this case to be a shaman instead, I'm removing them from the responders list. I'm clearing their shrine. I'm doing everything, presumably, that you would need to do. So what's the problem? I don't know. I'm gonna actually test it. I'm gonna try and replicate the bug or whatever it is. need a bit more fresh air. I can't breathe, dude. Oh. Current pred ID equals nearest threat ID, unknown object, current pred not set before reading it. Dear step 0, line 164. Is it called current predator or something? Dear step 0, 164. Nope. Nearest threat. Unknown object dot current pred. Oh. With. Okay. My bad. This is in a with. These are all inside of a with. So it needs to be, hey RSVP, how's it going? A bunch of stuff. It feels like I'm working on 10 different things at once right now. What I'm trying to do is update or figure out what's going on with the worshippers and make some updates to how they work. But I've been sucked back into these trackers again, which, you know, I've rewrote all this stuff recently and I'm still dealing with the aftermath of that, you know. The specific thing that I'm realizing right now is just that all of this code is in a with, so I'm supposed to be doing other dot current pred, other dot nearest threat. That's all. But these trackers, like, when I made these recent changes to these trackers, the stuff that shouldn't be on the trackers was no longer getting cleared off the trackers. And in some cases, I had a different way of handling for that, like, oh, it doesn't matter if something gets stuck on the tracker because we'll do some other check somewhere down the line, or yeah, something like that. But it was a bad way of doing things. But I thought about it for a bit and I figured out how I can actually update these trackers to quite easily just clear stuff off of them that shouldn't be there, which is really nice because, I mean, it was necessary for certain things. A lot of things, really, the majority of things. But in some cases, like, we have a global heal list, which is a list of all of the injured humans, right? So even if there's a human stuck on the lowest health human tracker who actually no longer needs healing, we can just check whether the injured humans list, the global heal list, is not empty. And then we know whether somebody needs healing or not, because we only put the ones that need healing on that list, and we remove them when they don't need healing anymore. That was like my fallback. That's like my failsafe, right? But there were other cases where I didn't have something like a global heal list that I could just check like that. So we actually needed to get to where anything that shouldn't be on the tracker gets removed from the tracker. And it was a simple case of adding an else to this, right? This is the thing where we check all of the relevant conditions for adding something onto the tracker. So we just say, well, else, okay, if that's not true, then if the thing that we're currently checking is already on the tracker, remove it from the tracker. And I'm pretty sure it works perfectly. I'm yet to test it because I forgot to add other to all of these, which means I have to go back through everything and add other to it, which is a bit of a pain in the butt, but I guess I should have realized that the first time around. So, yeah, because everything's in a with. This is in a with current pred, which means, you know, I've got to do other current pred to actually reference that variable because it's on the human object. So I just got to go through all of these. That's it. But the worshippers, I don't know what's going on actually, because like, so there's this edge case that apparently I had thought of it, but I just don't know if I'm handling it correctly. Because the thing is there, like, you can send a group of worshippers to unlock a shrine, and then you could take one of them and reassign them to something else, like a hunter or a carpenter or something, right? And what was happening is, like, I think the two remaining worshippers would just be stood there still, just like waiting for the third guy, who's not even a worshipper anymore. But when I looked at the code, I am removing them from the shrine if you reassign their gift when they've been, you know, like allocated to a shrine or whatever. So I don't know what's going on. So I just got to figure that out. I was literally just about to try and replicate it so I could get a look at what's going on, but then I got this error because these variables don't exist on these objects. That one's slightly different from the rest. But it'll be really easy to find. If I miss any of these, it'll just tell me exactly which line I missed. So it shouldn't be too hard. And I forget what they are, but I think I found a few other bugs to fix yesterday. I was doing a bit of sort of play testing yesterday and finding everything. So I want to get the bugs fixed first, and then there's a few things I just want to rebalance, basically. Just like the power costs of some miracles and what else? I can't remember. There's some other stuff. But we're really honing in on a solid build now, which is excellent. Once I've basically knocked this stuff out today, it'll be time to do another play test and see if I can find anything else, you know, and hopefully just keep whittling it down until there's no bugs left and everything's like nicely balanced. And then I can get back to drawing the rest of the human sprites. I've still got like half of the human sprites to draw. Drawing sprites is the bane of my existence, dude. I'd rather just be coding, is what I learned from my first foray into drawing sprites. I learned that I don't like it. I don't like it, and I don't want to do it. But it kind of has to be done, because I've drawn half of them now. Ultimately, I think they'll still be replaced. They're definitely better than a bunch of multicolored cubes, or cuboids. But I think they'll still be replaced eventually by somebody who actually knows how to draw sprites. Oh, not for me. For me, it only goes. It just goes. I have a really hard time with things that aren't strictly necessary. It's like, you're telling me this is absolutely, completely pointless. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter. Everything could just be placeholders, you know, and the game would still work exactly the same. It just looks nice. I really struggle with that. And I just don't think I really enjoy the process of drawing the sprites very much. I like making things function. I like functionality, not aesthetics. Don't know why. That's just how I am. Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. Wait, did I do this one first? Going in a weird order? But the original thing that I set out to do was to get them to flee to guards that are inside. Because they weren't doing that previously. We just ignored them. And it makes sense because it would be a pathing issue. You can't try and path to something that's inside. You would have to path to the thing that they are inside of, which is what we do now. The fuck is this? What am I looking at? Okay, wait, I think I've got everything. Nope, missed one. So yeah, because I noticed that yesterday, like a bunch of fishers were being attacked by some wolves, and they were running away instead of running to the guards for assistance. And I was like, "What's going on?" And then I realized, oh, all the guards are inside. Yeah, they just don't. They won't run to guards that are inside. So now they will run to the tent that the nearest guard is inside of instead. It's definitely better. It's still a little bit weird in the sense that they will run to that tent, and when the guard emerges from that tent, they will continue running to the tent, as opposed to like switching to the guard. But that would require a whole lot of extra work, which I just can't be bothered doing. It's good enough, right? If they run to the tent that the guard is in, that's good enough. It might look a little bit weird, but it gets the job done. If we wanted to make them like switch targets to the actual guard when they emerge from the tent, we would need to do something like at the time of assigning their target, we also like add that guard to a variable, like the guard thing, like they store that guard in their memory, and then whilst they're pathing to the tent, they're also performing these checks to see if that guard has come outside yet, and if the guard is outside, then switch targets at that point. There's a similar thing with your NPC pathing. They avoided walking through stuff, so you had to create a goal point for them to go to use an object. What was happening when you didn't have the goal point? Oh, they just didn't go. Oh, because you were like trying to get them to path directly to the thing, like on top of it, which was technically a forbidden area that they couldn't reach. It was inaccessible. Right. Yes, because technically, whenever you're pathing to something, really you're pathing next to it, because the thing itself is Well, if it's flagged, if it occupies cells that are flagged on the as forbidden on the navigation grid, then it's technically solid. Okay, last one. Yes, some of my constructs, like the tents, have an entrance, right? Some things, like the campfire, you can just stand on any side of it, so we just path to, like, we check the angle from which you are pathing to it, and then you just go to the nearest side. But some stuff you got to go in the door, so you have to path to the entrance. Can't see the forest for the trees here. I'm staring directly at the thing. Yeah, that's a pretty nice way, and like, and then you can sort of, what I do is I use the angle to pick the starting cell, and then I go around and I add all of the available cells that are next to the object that we're trying to path to an array, and then I attempt to path to the first one, and if that fails, I move through all of the cells in the array. That was because GameMaker's pathfinding used to be terrible. I don't know if they updated it at some point. Oh, nice. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I'm using MP Grid, and they used to, like, fail to find a path all the time. So I was like, well, I'll just give you more cells to try and path to and just brute force it. Just keep trying until you find a path. But I feel like they've been pretty good recently, so maybe GameMaker was updated their pathfinding at some point. I don't know. I never read, like, the patch notes or anything. But the pathfinding is like the slowest. Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, feel free. Pathfinding, according to the profiler, is basically the slowest thing that I'm doing. It's where all my performance issues come from. To the point where I was working with Brewer on possibly writing a custom pathfinding system to replace GameMaker's pathfinding recently. But we got far enough down that road to realize that it wasn't going to help. It might have helped, but it would have added like 11 minutes to the loading times or something. But then again, that might not have been so bad when compiled with YYC. Because YYC has really improved my loading times massively. Hey, oh yes, no, this is GML, GameMaker language. So all I did in the end really was like try to shorten the distances that they path. I don't do anything where I'll like spawn a waypoint anywhere in the room so it could be all the way on the other side of the map. I think the maximum distance at which I'll spawn a waypoint is like 120 units away from themselves, which just shortens those paths down a little bit. Only create new paths every second or half second. Can't remember, but oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I do something similar. Everything runs on a tick. So yeah, they aren't constantly creating paths. But it's still the most well, it's still the slowest thing that I'm doing. What am I looking at here? Got that one. That one. Okay, I think we're done. Okay, so the game should hopefully run now, and I can try and replicate this thing. And a big thing that I realized recently after a bit of a refactor is that because I have this thing where they can be running their state conditions script, like the big decision tree that decides what they should be doing, what state they should switch into. I can be running that in a few states other than idle, kind of like downtime activity states, sheltering from the rain, gathering firewood during their downtime, just wandering around camp, stuff where they would need to switch to a higher priority task if it came up. And in order to prevent them from constantly running pathfinding, I had to say, like, I have to store the old state in a variable and compare it to the new state, and they only perform their pathing if the old state does not equal the new state, right? So they only path if they're switching states. And it caused some issues where I was running the pathing stuff within a state where there was no state change. Like if you're running away from something and you reach the waypoint, but you still haven't gotten far enough away from it to stop running away, then you have to spawn another waypoint and continue running, which involves doing more pathing. But they wouldn't do it because they didn't switch states. But they would do it because I was running a target relocation script, which is the thing that recalculates pathing if their target moves to a different cell on the navigation grid, right? And so that was just working as like a catch-all, and I didn't realize that that was the only reason that a lot of stuff was even working. And so when I did some recent changes to target relocation where we only run that script when absolutely necessary rather than constantly running it in the background as like a little optimization, I found that a lot of stuff stopped working, and I basically just had to go through, and if we ever run the pathing code without changing states, I just have to like reset the old state variable so that it doesn't match the current state, and that will actually allow them to run their pathing. It's exactly the same one. Didn't I? Oh god. Did I misunderstand the assignment? What's wrong? 164, step 0. Oh, what is wrong? What is wrong with this? Else if unable to find instance for object. Well, just, yeah, you're not supposed to do it if the instance doesn't exist. What are you talking about? Current pred. Nearest threat. .id. Well, if there is no nearest threat, then it's not going to be able to find the ID of it, so... Oh, shit. Here we go again. We got to go through and add the instance exists check to all of these. We only run this if current pred exists, but on the first pass, nearest threat would not have even been set yet, and it could be cleared again later as well. Pass stuff in an alarm that confirmed runs once a second, then if they're not doing whatever states that they can't move, then they do if they need to. If you're pathing stuff in an alarm that confirmed runs once a second, then if they're not doing whatever states that they can't move, not doing whatever, then so you run the alarm and then there's a check. It's like if you're in a state where you should be moving, then you run your pathing stuff. I think I understand it. So we gotta go through all of these and add the frickin' instance exists check so that we don't do it if it doesn't exist. Okay. there's not really an easy way I can search for this stuff. I just have to go through and use my eyeballs. So if state does not equal using item and state does not equal buying stuff, do pathing stuff. Interesting. Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, it works. I can see how it could get pretty out of hand. The more states that you add, the more checks you have to do. Mine is basically just, you don't have that many states, okay. Mine is just if they have a target, basically. If they have a target and state does not equal old state, then we know that they need to path to something and they've changed states. But that does just mean that there are a few exceptions where I have to set old state to something different just to get it to run. I think I got all of them in here. I've been meaning to reach out to Tharaka about save loading. I think he has like a proper save screen where you can browse through your save files and you can probably name them and stuff. I need to add one of those eventually. All you can do in my game is quick save and quick load. Is that it? Okay. Jesus Christ. Oh, yeah. It's like every time you update something or add something to the game, you always forget to update the save load system. Or I do anyway. What am I even searching for? Instance exists nearest threat. Instance exists nearest threat. Instance exists nearest prey. Instance exists nearest tent. At this point, you're just going to wait until it's all in there and remake the whole save. That makes sense. Demos and playtests will be unsavable, but it feels like a waste of time to have to keep changing it. Yeah, especially like, you know, because you might add something to the game, update the save system, and then remove it again. And then you have to update the save system again to remove it. So definitely, like, it's a good idea to wait until everything's pretty much locked in. I think that's a good idea. Sundown made backwards compatible save loading for his game, so he could keep updating the game and it wouldn't break your old save files, which is cool. I mean, who wouldn't want that? I don't know if I'll ever do it, but yeah, just sort of you reminded me of that. I've been meaning, I didn't write it down as a potential kind of like stretch goal, like an optional feature. Backwards compatible save loading would be pretty sweet. Oh, same. I mean, I have no idea how you do that. I was gonna perhaps see if I could talk to him about it sometime, because it would be pretty nice. It would, because like I've been thinking, like, you know, I'm just gonna release the game and then that's it. I'll fix bugs and stuff, but I'll never be able to add new content to it. But if you've got that, if you're not going to break people's save files, then it opens up some possibilities there for like updates and new content, right? Which would be pretty sweet. I think I'm getting them all. We'll soon find out. We'll get an error if I've missed anything. Oh. It's just the humans left to do. Forgot to even put other on these ones. That's it. Okay, does the game run? Does the game finally run now? I should probably run in an actual map, an actual level, where all of the creatures will be there, so we can make sure everything's okay. Oh, okay. Alright. Man, it's super late. I still haven't worked out today. I've been going to bed really late and getting up super late. Okay, it runs. That's good. Let's give it a minute, see if it throws any errors. Hopefully we got everything. Okay, seems good. I re-enabled the temperature on the UI recently because I was like, if you could see the temperature of the humans, why wouldn't you be able to see the ambient temperature? It doesn't make any sense. That seems good. Okay, I guess I'm gonna test this out on Beginner Island. See what's going on. Alright, gonna make 3 worshippers. I'm gonna activate... Let's do this portal stone. 3 worshippers heading to the portal stone. I'm gonna convert one of them into a carpenter. These guys are still going. Is that just because they're pathing? Let's see if they get... I'm pretty sure they will get added to the worshippers list. Yes. So they're still behaving as normal. Okay, so when I converted that guy into or girl into a carpenter from a worshipper, they should have been removed from the responding list, which would then cause the disband party code to kick in. That was the thought, anyway. Where it's like, if at least... How do you say it? At least one of the lists, the responding worshippers list and the active worshippers list, is not empty, but the total size of those 2 lists combined is less than the number of required worshippers, then it should just disband the party, which it is clearly not doing. So the problem is not that I don't know what the problem is. As far as I can tell, if I look at the controller, no, look at the drop script. Alright, and I pick up a worshipper and reassign them to be a shaman, for example. We're going to remove them from the responders list. With... What the fuck? Well, of course it doesn't work. What is this? Object shrine. Object shrine. It's not a shrine. It used to be that the game only had shrines, but now it has shrines and portal stones and expansion stones. This should basically be run on shrine. which will contain the ID of the shrine. So this is also an optimization in a sense, because we're not running it on all of them. We're only running it specifically on the one that they're actually using. So they just weren't getting. So if I fix all of these, shrine. Okay. I'm pretty sure I got all of them there, right? Because that was the first one. Top of the list. Yep. Okay, we got them all. Okay, so now, if I do the same thing, the group should be disbanded. But then we've got some additional stuff that we want to do that kind of changes. We basically want to implement the ability for like replacement worshippers to be added to the worship group. We will only fully disband the group if there are no replacements. Otherwise, we would rather take replacements, right? We'd rather add replacements to the group. And that's a much more sensible behavior, because it's not intuitive how it works currently. If I have 3 worshippers going and then I reassign one of them to be something else, and say I had 3 more worshippers back at camp, like available worshippers over there, and I did that, and then what would happen is the group would be disbanded. These 2 worshippers that were headed to the shrine would then start heading back to camp, and a whole new group would be made from these 3 available worshippers over here, and then so it would like completely swap out to a whole new group, which it doesn't make sense. It's not intuitive. You would expect the remaining 2 worshippers in the group to stay there or to continue traveling to the shrine, and then for a 3rd worshipper to be added to the group to replace the one that was removed, right? That's intuitive. That's how you expect. That's how you would expect them to behave, right? So I'm activating this shrine here. So what we'll see now, hopefully, is if I... So they're going over there. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to turn them into a carpenter. And now these guys stopped. The group has just been disbanded. If we had turned them back into a worshipper, let's say we had 6 worshippers, right? It's easier to show than tell, right? So, stop, just stop. Everybody stop. Okay, get a drink, have a drink. Right, I'm going to activate the shrine again. 3 of them are going, okay? So I'm going to wait until they actually reach it and start unlocking it this time, just because that really proves the point of how unintuitive this is. I'm going to take one of them. I'm going to turn them into a carpenter. The group is disbanded and a new group has been formed, and now these guys are heading over and these guys are heading back. What you would expect is that these 2 stay there and then one of the 3 from over here joins them, right? Joins the group. That makes sense. That's how we actually want it to work. And I took some notes yesterday of how I think we can achieve that, which is... We're already doing that. So basically replace missing worshippers, which is like... It's kind of like if there is an available worshipper, replace the missing worshipper, and disband worship group if there are no available worshippers to replace. If there is no available worshipper to replace the missing worshipper. There we go. That's like the clearest explanation I can give. And so there's going to be some additional checks involved there, right? We're going to take a look at the code, and I should probably take this opportunity to make a function because the code appears in 3 different objects and I don't want to have to update it 3 different times. So let's perhaps make a function. This is the disband code, right? So it's like if the number of responders plus the number of worshippers is less than the number of required worshippers, and the responders list is not empty or the worshippers list is not empty. So basically, if we don't have a full group, but there is somebody in the group, then we disband. What we want to say here is, and really, it kind of depends on the difference. If you really want to make this totally flexible, then we also need there to be enough replacements as well. Now, you can only reassign one worshipper at once because you can only pick one of them up at once, right? You can only ever be holding one thing at once. So it's not, as far as I can tell, possible for like 2 worshippers to be removed from the group simultaneously. Just based on the way that everything is kind of set up right now, that's not possible. But I would still, just my own peace of mind, like to write this in a way that it's fully flexible and adaptable. So it would be like, hold up, is this still the first thing we want to check? Probably. So the first thing we check is that it would be kind of smart to store this in a temporary variable or something, wouldn't it? Where we call it like missing worshippers or something. Well, that would be the difference. We would want to subtract this number from this number, right? In order to, that would be like the required. It would be like rec worshippers equals no, that's not a good idea because the required worshippers is already what we call the total number of worshippers that we need. Should we call it missing worshippers? Missing worshippers is required worshippers minus responders plus worshippers. Right, so if we require 3 worshippers and we only have 2, we're missing 1. So then we need to perform a check that says ds list size global dot available worshippers. It's actually called available worshipper. Is greater than or equal to missing worshippers. Right, so we know that we have enough replacements. If we have enough replacements, hold on, what am I, this is the disband group thing. I don't know why I'm writing it in here. I'm actually writing the other thing, which is supposed to add replacements to the group. It's not supposed to be in here. This one, let me move this. What this one is supposed to say is, well, no, that's kind of still useful, isn't it? We just want to do the opposite. Not greater than or equal to, but less than. If the number of available worshippers is less than the number of missing worshippers, then we don't have enough replacements, right? So we should disband the group. However, in order to add, so this is the create worship group thing. We can probably just sort of copy paste that, and I guess we would want this to be inside of the active equals true, because we only really want to be doing this if the shrine is active. So let's just make a thing that says replace missing worshippers, and we're going to say we want to define that before we actually get to this point. And then we can say if the number of responders plus the number of worshippers is less than the number of required worshippers, and the number of available worshippers is greater than or equal to the number of missing worshippers. Get rid of this bit. Then I less than missing worshippers, ds list add responders, find value, available worshippers 0, available worshippers 0, shrine equals ID, available worshippers shrine target number, ds list delete, available worshippers 0. There we go. So that will add available worshippers to the worship group if a worshipper goes missing. Or it can even handle for multiple worshippers going missing. But the thing is that that's impossible, because you can only have yeah, we're actually handling for. I'm trying to think. I don't believe there's anything in the game right now that could cause more than one worshipper to go missing in a single step, right? Like in the same frame. But something like that could exist in the future. So I like future proofing. I'm a big fan of knowing that if anything like that was ever added to the game, this would still work. So we can give it a try and see if it does the trick. Okay, so same test. Here's a portal stone over here. I'm going to make 4 worshippers this time. And I'm going to activate this portal stone. 3 of them are going, 1 of them stays. And then, let's wait for them to reach it. And then, I'm going to grab one of these guys and convert them into a carpenter. And then this guy joins the party. Oh, wait, those guys also left. Did you see that? I think what happened is the group got disbanded and then remade still. Why was that? Let's make you back into a worshipper, and let's convert one of these into a... Yes, it's still being disbanded. Why is it still being disbanded? So once this this replacement worshipper has been added to the responders list, DS list size responders plus worshippers should no longer be less than required worshippers, so this shouldn't happen at all. I'm going to completely disable the... Wait a minute. This is what I'm talking about, dude. This is what I'm fucking talking about. This is why you need to make a function. I was using a portal stone, not a shrine, wasn't I? The new code isn't even on the portal stone object. For God's sake, man. Right. Everything from here down to here can go in a function. I even talked about how I need to do that, and then I just didn't do it. Okay. Where are we going to put it? Constructs. We have a constructs thing. I'm going to call this SC worship group. I love that there are worship groups in my game. I don't know why. That makes me so happy. Will you be at the worship group this weekend? Wouldn't miss it for the world. Praise the Lord. Controller with controller. Get that in some brackets. Boom. Okay, and then everything here becomes, rename that to just worship group. Sweet Jesus. What am I looking at? Did I just delete it and then freak out? Yeah. Okay. This becomes worship group. Or that one. ID. So that's the shrine, and then there's the portal stone. Everything from here to here. And then there's the expansion stone. Everything from here to here. Boom. Alright, so now we have a nice function to do that for us. I don't have to update the code in 3 different places. And hopefully it actually works. I don't think I left any of it commented out, did I? Hopefully not. No. Okay. Alright, we should be good now. Fingers crossed. I think my implementation seems good, except for the fact that I didn't implement it. in 2 of the 3 locations, but now we should be good. And when you're making a game with a lot of autonomy, it's really important that everything's intuitive. Like, the humans need to behave as expected and like as the player would want them to. Otherwise, it's really frustrating because it's completely out of your control. Okay, we have 4 worshippers. We're going to make a worship group and unlock this portal stone. 3 of them are heading over there now. Once they reach it, I will convert one of them into a carpenter. And as we can see, 2 of them remain, and an additional worshipper, the additional available worshipper, has been added to the group and is heading over there to join them right now. That is excellent. That is exactly how I would expect them to behave. Awesome. That's really cool. If we, you know, like, let me deactivate that again, convert you back into a worshiper. Let's have like 6 worshippers or something on the go here. Wait for those guys to get a drink. Bring them back to camp. He is going back to camp, right? Yeah, I was a bit worried he was going to the shrine again. Okay, I'm going to reactivate this, and a group of 3 has been formed. We have 6 worshippers total. 3 of them are currently unlocking this portal stone. 3 of them are jabbing about over here. I am going to convert 2 of these into fishers. And there should be 2 replacements that join the group. Amazing. I could even convert all 3 of them into fishers, and then a 3rd replacement will join the group. It's great. It's so good. I love it. Awesome. Really happy with that. That is excellent. Okay. Okay. I'm going to save. I'm going to push this to the repository. I'm going to say updated trackers to clear themselves or something. Clear updated trackers to clear. That's fine. And updated updated shrines and portal/expansion stones to replace missing worshippers and only disband worship groups when there are no available worshippers. And that is about it. I'm pretty sure that is everything I've done so far today. Let me have a look at my to-do list real quick. Have a look at the bugs. What have we got? Fixed that yesterday. That's fine. Fixed that yesterday. Fixed that. Lone wolves not attacking humans. I want to look into that. And reassigning, what is this? Reassigning worshippers whilst they're unlocked. That's literally just what I did right then. Okay, so I just got to look into lone wolves not attacking humans, which will be something to do with the threat assessment. I believe it was like, is it just lone wolves or is it injured lone wolves? I'm not quite sure, but I would like to understand why that's happening. We have now done that. And then I've just got some balance changes to make. Increase miracle for power cost. Make fire spread to/from humans. We're going to update how fire works so that it can, in fact, spread to humans, but it'll be a very low chance. And it can also spread from humans to other objects. And I want to increase the number of rabbits per warren by 1, I think, because the numbers were a little bit low yesterday, I thought. And that's it. We've done the major stuff today, like fixing the bugs. Really, it's just about making a few balance changes and looking into that wolf bug. But that'll be after the break, because I need to work out today. It's deload week, so a bit of a shorter workout, just an hour. Usually it seems to take me an hour to do a deload session. But I'm going to lift some weights. I'll be back in like 10-15 minutes on the phone to lift some weights for an hour. Then I'll grab something to eat, and I'll be back with more game dev later tonight. Thank you for joining me. Really appreciate it. It's been fun hanging out. And I'll catch you in a bit. Peace out. Did I not end stream? Why am I why am I still here? Okay, alright, well, I am so hungry. I gotta get this workout in before I literally starve to death. Okay. I don't know what happened. Oh, it looks like I must have like hit the button twice because I ended stream and then immediately restarted stream again. It says I've been live for 20 minutes. So, all right, I'll be back in just a few minutes on the phone. I'm gonna lift some weights real quick, and I'll be doing some more game dev later on.